is Keith Coburn. So I think we're just getting connected to Keith now. It's just 2 o'clock. Well, I love when we keep to time. Keith is going to be talking about interview skills. So I think we're just going to take a moment to get set up. There he is. Oh, Keith, what a lovely background you have there, sitting out in the mountains.
So I said, yeah, I'd go with the nice weather outside. I'd give myself something cheery to look at.
Yeah, I'm almost envious of your office space, so I am.
Yeah, it's quite, the Wi-Fi is not great, but I know.
I know. Well, okay, look, I will let you crack on in a minute, just to let people know that this is Keith Coburn from Coburn Guidance. He's going to talk about interview skills, turning fear into fuel for brilliance. So Keith is going to speak for 20-25 minutes. We'll have about 5 minutes at the end for questions, which if you're watching this, you can pop any questions in the little chat function. So now at this stage, Keith, I will hand the floor over to you and let you and your lovely backdrop take off there.
Brilliant. So I'm going to just share my screen and my presentation. Perfect. So you can see that, yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Just the lady that was on that was asking about course recognitions in foreign countries, I heard that you go onto a website, NARIC, so NARIC, that shows you a multitude of countries that you can enter your qualification in, and it gives you free tips to tell you which PQI level it corresponds with. So I just thought I'd say that.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. That's
You're
great.
Grand. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, look, thanks a million, Ruth, for introducing. So as the slide says, I'm Coburn Guidance. So my name is Keith Coburn, funnily enough. So myself, I'm a qualified and registered guidance counsellor. I've been working in the field for about the last 13, 14 years in some form of helping people try to get back into education or trying to get people to move into employment, whether it be a first time or a second time. I do private guidance counselling with individuals across a multitude of, I suppose, areas. So everything from a 19, 20-year-old who's moving into their first job, somebody maybe who's in their 50s and has decided that they want to do something different. So what I wanted to do was, I suppose, looking into skills and turning into fuel for brilliance. So look, the main thing that I just wanted to go through with you at interviews, I have some sort of illness in that I absolutely love job interviews. I think you learn an awful lot from them, whether you get them or you don't get them. And so what I want to do is break down that fear aspect that we maybe talk about. So I'm just going to minimize so that I can see my full slide. Okay, so what do we think? Bear with me, there we go, perfect. So what do I think of when I hear the word fear? So look, for me, when I hear the word fear, like fear, dread, fright, alarm, panic, terror, all those things pop into my mind. And so I'll take you back to that moment when you open the letter or you open the email and it says, we'd like to invite you for interview, and you just go, oh, I'm delighted, but oh my God, I am absolutely fearful. I don't know what's going to come up. I don't know what to do. Okay, right. So let's look at it, right? So let's dismantle fear. And how I do that is very, very simple. Fear comes from I won't be prepared, right? So I won't be prepared for this interview. That's why fear kicks in, because it's the unknown. You don't know how many people are going to be interviewing you. You don't know what they're going to be asking you. You don't know if you have the right answers. But what you do know is that they've taken the time to give you an opportunity to speak. So they've done it for a reason. They haven't done it because they start for you and they want to give you a bit of a pep. They've done it because your CV has shown them enough to suggest that you're possibly the right candidate. So I won't be prepared. Well, what part of won't you be prepared for? And what I mean by that is, let's break it all down. So I don't know what the questions they're going to ask me. I don't know what answers I'm going to give. I think the job is already gone, which I hear several occasions, and maybe that's people just saying it so that it takes the pressure off them. I don't know anything about the company. I don't know if I can do the job. I don't know if I'm not going to blow my own trumpet. I hate having to look at multiple interviewers. All of those are big fears that pop up. But what if I told you that the worries that are up there, you can actually work on them? And confidence is a big thing, absolutely. Now, this is a 20-25 minute workshop. So you're not going to come out of this going, oh my God, you know what? I've gone from the 2 in, I've gone from a 9 in fear now for interviews, I've gone to 2, everything's hunky-dory. That's not what, you know, I'd like to promise a lot in life, but I can't promise I'm going to do that. But what I want to do is break down when you say fear. So I'll actually go, yeah, sorry. So make sure what's on your CV is true. So the first thing, right, and I know this sounds a little bit forced, but I've seen people have said to me, oh, I put stuff on my CV that's not really, you know, it's bending the truth a little bit, and it gets me interviews. And I always say to people, don't do that. You know, don't put something in your CV that isn't true. And I've got people saying to me, oh, I've done that and I've got the interview, so it doesn't matter. And my follow-up question to that is, well, have you got the job? Well, no, I didn't get the job. No, I didn't get the job, but I got the interview. And that's great. So that means that your CV is working, but it means that when you're going into interview, there's something happening that's stumbling you. And it could be that they're asking you to go into detail about what you've put on your CV, and what you've put on your CV you're not comfortable with, because it isn't absolutely everything, or it's maybe saying you did much more when you didn't, or saying you did much less. Any which way you bend it. But I would always try to say to individuals is, make sure that what is on your CV is true. So when you go in there, you have that sense of, I own this CV, everything on it is true, everything on it I can speak about. So what do we have in our toolkit? And the big thing with this is, people go into interviews thinking, oh, they have all the cards. And I completely disagree. They have maybe 40% of the cards. Like, they want you as much as you probably want them, because they want you to be their ideal candidate. It's not like a driving test that I did 5 times, I may add, back in 15 years ago. Driving tests, you're marked for things you did wrong. Interviews, you're marked for things you did well. So they're looking for you to give across that information. So the stuff that you have in your own toolkit is the legs of your own CV. As I said, knowing that inside out, knowing what that contains. The job specification. The job specification is a big thing, and I'm going to go into that in a second, right? So I'll skim past that. Information on the company. Again, I'll go into that. This is just an overview of stuff that you have in your toolkit first. And your own life and work experiences, which is unique to you. Nobody else will have done any of the things that you, in the different varieties of things that you've done, or education, or qualifications, training, that sort. So remember one thing. This is the start of this, right? Why was I called? So knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And that's Aristotle. And there's plenty more of those motivational quotes that I could bang out all day. But the reality is, know yourself. So if, first of all, if what's on your CV is correct, then you know going into that interview that you've been called for a particular reason. And the reason you've been called is because they actually deem your CV is good enough for a potential job. So straight away, the fear that you have about, I can't do this job, don't be thinking about that. They've told you they think you can do this job. And you always hear fake it till you make it, imposter syndrome. You always hear these things. So just remember, you're getting a vote of confidence in getting called to the interview in the first place. So I don't know what they'll ask is one of the big things that comes up. So, you know, I don't know what question. Well, what if I told you I can get you most of the questions? Now, I can't get you the answers, unfortunately, but I can get you the questions. And the questions are going to come from 2 places. They're going to come from your CV. So they're going to ask you about your CV, about your stories, about your duties. They're going to ask you, how does your particular duties that you've done in one job relate to their job? So what you have to do is, you have to get out their job specification and your CV and look at how they work together. So if you've worked in, I'll give you an example, I worked in bars and then I worked in sales. So what you have to do is become the employer where you look at, right, well, what have I done in bar work that ties into sales? Right, okay. So look, when I did that, I was working with people, I was working under pressure, I was working with cash, I was placing orders, I was having to keep very calm under pressure, especially late at night. All of those things are called transferable skills which you can bring into a new job. But if you don't understand your CV, then you are not going to be able to relate your CV to the job spec. And what tends to happen sometimes is people go in and they talk about their CV in isolation, and they forget that they're not being interviewed about their CV. They're being interviewed about their CV and how it relates to the job spec that they're going for. So you have to understand both of these things as equally good as possible, because if you do, then you know there's going to be really nothing in there they can ask you that's going to trump you, because you've studied the job spec and you know your CV inside out. And sometimes what I will see is people will apply for a job, they get called for it, and then the job spec is maybe gone off the website. That's happened to me multiple times. And what I do is contact them and say, can you send me an updated job spec? Because if I don't use their job spec, and if I don't have my CV in front of me, and if I'm not looking between them and saying, right, there's the connection here, like the Sherlock Holmes, you know, when you see him go to his mind palace, if I don't do that, if I can't see the tangible links, then when it comes to the interview and they say to me, tell me about a time you worked under pressure, and I can't understand that, oh God, yeah, do you know what, that time that I worked in that place for everything, when COVID hit, and I had to put everything online, if you can't see how that relates to that question, then they're not going to be able to do it. So study the job specification. So think of the job specification as a cheat sheet for a maths exam. I think that's the perfect explanation. I think I've used it here before. I'm still in the process of trying to copyright it. Study it and see what types of questions will be asked. So to give an example, I'm going for a job in the morning in digital marketing. Chances are that I'm not going to be asked about something, I don't know, something complete horticulture. They're not going to ask me, okay, so it's winter, what winter plants would you actually put down? They're not going to ask me that. And that sounds silly and very trivial, but it's just to point out the nature of, you know, understanding the job spec. You will know the types of questions. And what I do with people when I work with people individually and in groups is I give them, you're the business owner, so you now own this company. I want you to put together a job specification. And they put together a job specification. And then I say to them, now I want you to come up with 5 questions that you would ask based on that job specification. And I can tell you now that there are questions that I know are going to come up. So I will go, I guarantee you they'll ask something about customer service. I'll guarantee you they're going to ask something about working under pressure, because the job they've come up with, they've said in the job specification, must be able to work under pressure. So I need to be able to grab my CV, grab the job spec, and link them both together. Oh, there's you smiling away with your yellow face, whatever, and it says blue. Fingers crossed. So research the company. And again, I'm going to do this. If you own the company and were hiring, which would you be most impressed by? So would you be impressed by A or by B? So someone who knows about your company's histories, projects, and awards, or someone who said they don't know much about you except for the About Us section. And they might not say, I don't know much about you, but they might just be like, oh yeah, well, you know, their answer might be 2 sentences. While what you want to do is you're trying to show them that you want to work for them. So again, place yourself in the mind of the employer. If you're the employer and you've put blood, sweat, and tears into a business, you've built it up from the ground, you're now hiring maybe the first person, you've just been nominated for a prize with Enterprise Ireland, you've bought a new office, you have 3 new products that are gone to market, and you interview somebody and somebody says, I didn't know any of that. And it's freely available straight off. You know, you're going to be thinking, you don't really want to work here. And this is fear. This all ties back into turning fear into brilliance. If you understand more about the job spec, if you understand how your CV relates to the job spec and how you can make those links, you lead the interview. So, you know, you don't wait for them to find the connections. You physically and verbally tell them the connections. Well, as you asked about working under pressure, actually in my current job or in my previous job before COVID, I would have been the main person who was. So, you know, it's not a case of you have to sit there and let them run the interview towards you. You can dictate it as well and steer it in the direction you want. So look, pre-interview and first impressions. So first impressions matter. You may not agree with it. And I've got that from people who say, sure, look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm looking in their eyes or looking out the window. It doesn't matter if I'm figuring with my hands or, you know, I'm 2 minutes late. It's not the end of the world. It absolutely does. And until you're the employer hiring somebody, maybe you won't mind if somebody's looking out the window. But first impressions are crucial. So I'm looking straight at the white light that's coming out of my laptop. I can see absolutely nobody. There could be 400 people there, it could be 0. It could be just me and Ruth Scott talking here. But I don't know. But the importance is that my first impression is I'm going to try and impress you. So rather than me looking out the window while I'm doing this presentation, or rather than me looking down or muttering, it's very important that body language wise, I'm sitting up, I'm engaging with you, I'm talking straight directly to you, eye to eye. And that sort of thing builds up a rapport. Because body language, it's not just about what we say, it's also about how we say it. So like only 30% of what we actually physically, vocally say comes across. 55% body movements and face and arms are the main thing. I've been at interviews before where I've been interviewed, and I was interviewed by 3 people on a panel, and one of them kept looking over my shoulder out the window. Now that's very off-putting, and as an employer, they shouldn't be doing that. But I need to go, okay, that's grand. I maintain and I go the same way that I've trained myself to go. Don't fall into the traps of, well, they're looking out the window, so they're really not interested. Don't be trying to take that. For all you know, the interviewer before you could have been absolutely terrible, and that person is sitting there scratching their head going, oh my God, I can't believe the last interview. It is unprofessional. If you're an interviewee, a new one, but try to block it out and try just, continue to be with the answers that you're given. So remember, you're not a robot. Let passion and enthusiasm shine through. You might be still nervous, but remember, you have so many cards in the interview, and I really genuinely mean that. You're there for a reason. They called you. It's not the other way around. They are physically telling you, verbally telling you, we think you could be the ideal candidate for this job. So it's important that when you go in, you know that this is not, it's not a case of you're getting 20 minutes of their time because, sure, why not? You're going in confidently, you're going in knowing the job specification inside out, knowing your CV inside out. You've made the links between how your CV and their job spec works. You know the company inside out. You don't have to do like an Irish history honours leaving cert paper on it, in that in 1944 on 3rd of February you were. It doesn't have to be that, but a natural kind of, I love your company. I love what you do. I saw that you won an innovation award. That sort of stuff really just puts to an employer that you want to be there. So common interview questions: tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Strengths and weaknesses. Tell me about yourself in a nutshell is talk me through your CV. So talk me through your CV and tell me how your CV relates to this job spec. Don't tell me about what you did last night. Don't tell me about how many brothers and sisters you have. Nothing like that. It is very much tell me about yourself in relation to this job. So you should know the job spec inside out, because if you know it inside out, then when you're telling them about yourself, you can make note and say, as that on your job specification, because straight away you're building the links between it. Why should we hire you? Again, that's your CV. Well, as you'll see from my CV, I think one of the main reasons you should hire me is that because I A, B, C, and D. So again, all of those things. Strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, yeah, if you're going to pick a strength, make sure that it's actually relatable to the job spec. So don't say, one of my strengths is that I can run 200 meters in 10 seconds. Not relatable. Doesn't really matter. That's fantastic. I think that's the world record, by the way. But it's not relatable to the job you're going for. In regards to weaknesses, if you're given weakness, I don't like that terminology, weakness. So it's a development point. But like, let's say if they're saying, what area of the job spec do you think you might need more support on? Don't be afraid to say, well, the database you use, I've never used before. There's one word you always put into that sentence. However, I have used databases in the past that are like that, so I would be quite confident in being able to get a hang of that. Competency questions, we're nearly there. Competency questions, there's scream, don't scream. But these are questions where they ask you for an example of a previous experience around a certain topic. So use this, STAR, situation, task, action, result. So what it does is it stops you rambling, first, and secondly, it makes you give a specific example. So if they say, tell me about a time that you worked with a work colleague who was giving you aggro, or won't be aggro, but who wasn't pulling their weight. So rather than you go, well, that happened quite a lot. Well, actually, that tended to happen every Friday. No, they want one specific answer. So they want, okay, that would have happened a few times, but on this one particular occasion, so the situation, the task, the action. So I called the person aside and we had a good chat, and I found out that there was issues at home. So I said, look, I'll look after this Friday, and then next Friday you take it. And as a result, me and them got on perfectly well, because they saw that I didn't just go bullying into a situation. I actually wanted to find out. The competency questions following STAR keeps you on track and keeps you from drifting away. Ask questions. So asking questions shows you're genuinely interested in and have thought about the role. Do not say you've answered everything I was going to ask, because that's a lazy way of saying, yeah, Grant, I don't really have any questions. And remember, if you were the employer and somebody said to you, and you said to somebody, do you have any questions for me? And they said, well, not really. No, you've answered everything. I think there'd be a little part of you going, you might have asked me something else. So always have questions. Always, how many people are going to be on the team if I get this job? If I get this job, what's the biggest challenge? They might come back and say the biggest challenge if you get this job is they might say working under pressure. Then you come back with, well, as I showed on my CV, working under pressure is something that I'm quite proactive with. So that sort of stuff, okay? So never just always say, I've no questions, because it ends an interview in the wrong place, personally. It's always okay to ask, and I do it cheekily, is there anything I've said here today that you'd like me to clarify? And what that does is, like, they have a marking sheet. So what that does is it allows them to look at maybe their marking sheet and see that maybe you got 2 out of 5 in communications question because you didn't clarify it. So yeah, what did you mean by that time when you answered it? Oh, sorry, right, okay. What I actually meant was, and you've now gone to a 2 to a 4 in that. And that could be the 2 marks that get you over the threshold. So look, I think that's about 20 minutes. I don't know. I think we're in around there. So look, as I said, I'm Coburn Guidance. You have the website there. It's www.coburnguidance.ie. I'm also on Instagram at Coburn Guidance, which is something I'm still just getting into. But if you have any questions or if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, please do feel free to bang off an email or even a message on Instagram.
Keith, that was great. Thank you very much. And I already have questions for you. So this is one that you touched on, but you might like to go into it a little bit more. It's from Kieran. And any advice on how to answer the most asked question, tell me about yourself, in an internship interview? So you did mention when somebody says, tell me about yourself in a nutshell, they want to know about your CV. Is there anything else that you might add to that?
So I suppose Kieran had said it's an internship route, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose, look, with an internship, I would be of the same principle that, like, it's a job interview. So I would even take out internship from your mindset of, yes, an internship they take you on. I don't know if it's paid or voluntary, but yes, they take you on and it's to see how you're getting on. But the big thing I would be getting across to tell me about yourself is, I really, so my name's Kieran, I've worked at and when I actually saw this internship being advertised, I thought this would perfectly tie into where I would like to see my career direction going, which would match my skills and benefit the company. So that maybe 2 lines at the end of telling you applied for this job because you applied for 200 jobs. Now you may have, but it just shows them that the career path you want to go down, that's where you saw this internship.
Can I ask you, if somebody has done all the planning and they've done like you've said, so they've made the links between their CV and the job spec and they're tipping along and suddenly they just, I don't know if there's a more polite way to say it, but if they have a brain fart and they just lose themselves halfway through, it happens to the best of us. Our interviewer is understanding about those kind of natural slips, distractions.
I would look at it in, if an interviewer isn't okay with that slip and penalizes you for, being nervous over a job, why do you really want to work there? Like employee well-being is a big thing, and it's something that I'm a big advocate in. You know, like if you're asked a question, so can you tell me about a time that you worked under pressure? I know I keep going back to that, but it's always okay if you have that brain freeze where you go, oh, geez. You know, it's happened to me. Like I've probably not gotten more interviews than I've gotten, but I still love that kind of, you know, finding out. So what I would say is, you know, actually, could I come back to that question at the end, if you don't mind? I'm just I'm just not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Most interviewers will go, okay, yeah, Grant. If do you know what they might do? They might phrase it in a different way, and that might be another way of answering that. Sorry, could you ask me that again? And it just shows that you're thinking about a particular question, and you're not jumping in with, you should hire me because I'm the ideal. You know, it's how you answer it. And I think saying to an employer, "Can I answer that?" But at the end, I'm struggling with that question, and I'll come back to it.
And I suppose the days of employers wanting to hire robots who only toe the party line are gone. And I suppose, as you say, they do want human beings.
That's it. And like I would always say to everyone, and I do it myself, right? You bring your car for an NCT if you're driving, and if you have a car, you bring your car for an NCT, right? And it fails. And they come out and say, your car failed the NCT. What's the first question you ask them? You say, why did it fail? And so what I do with interviews, if you didn't get an interview, hang off an email or pick up the phone. Now, don't go in like, you know, why didn't I get this job? This is the disgrace. But many times I've rang saying, look, obviously I didn't get the job, and I completely understand, and I hope the other candidate works out. However, this is an area that I would really, really love to work in. I'm wondering if I could get some feedback on my performance, and maybe areas that I could improve on.
And that's something that seems to be completely acceptable to do. Now, they're not obliged necessarily to give you feedback, but if you come to them in a straightforward manner like that, they may just be very happy to share the information with you.
Absolutely. And I think it sets up, like, let's say if it's a big company and I don't know, 6 months later, they have the same job and you apply for it, and now you've gone and done a course that they said maybe you don't have payroll and bookkeeping, you went and did that. Yeah. And then you're at the interview and you say, I applied for this job before, I was told I needed payroll and bookkeeping, I went away and got it. That's the type of person I am. You know, I'm a problem solver. And straight away a business would be going, right, Grant, that's a good sign that person looked for feedback, got feedback, and then acted on the feedback, and then came back again.
Yeah, that's a model interview student in a sense, isn't it? If only we were all like that.
And like the big thing is, the big thing is, like, people get fearful of asking for feedback. What I say is the worst that can be said is nothing back to you, or no, and the status quo stays the same. You're still what you were 3 days ago, but the best outcome is you suddenly have this wealth of knowledge that a professional company are telling you need to maybe brush up on, because we all think we do great interviews at times, but it's always great to get that little bit of feedback to find out, right, actually I thought I would have got top marks in that question, but I didn't. I actually really struggled. What was my answer again? Actually, I waffled a bit.
And actually you made a really good point as well, in terms of being sort of apprehensive, fearful, adrenaline pumping when you go in and you see somebody who might be looking out a window. You know, it's good to remember that it may have been the person that was before them, that was before you been interviewed, that may have just caused them all to get distracted. They may just be dying for a cuppa. It may be after their lunch and they're just gathering themselves, or the person might just be plain old rude looking out the window.
Yeah. Or they might have had a bad day. They might have got a bit of bad news. Yeah. That's the way, like, until you walk in and there's 3 Terminators sitting across in front of you and there's nothing. Like, people can have bad days. People can have bad days. And so what I would say to people is, try not to be distracted by that. You know, try to go, okay, there's something going on there, but I'm going to maintain my, I know my CV, my job spec inside out. I know this company inside out, so I'm going to continue to have the high level of professionalism I've set myself.
Yeah. Well, look, it was a pleasure to hear all of your insights, and I've no doubt that everyone watching will have gotten great insights and great practical advice from you. So thank you very much for sharing.
Brilliant.
As you say, all your details are there, your email, your website, and best of luck with the Instagram. It takes a bit of time,
Thanks very
but
much.
yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It
it does, yeah.
Really, I think I'm at 102. So look, if I can get to 200 by the end of the day, thanks very much.
So give him a follow at Coburn Guidance.
Thanks a million.
Keith, thanks a million. Keith
Thanks
Coburn,
a million.
qualified and registered guidance